Chapter 101. The person is as old as his heart is aged. With his abilities, Gyudong too could easily find Fang Yuan's residence. He was wearing the Gu Master's uniform, which he rarely wore. He had leg wrappings around his legs and was wearing a red belt around his waist. Everything was neat and clean, and gave off a faint feeling of majesty. He looked at Fang Yuan, who was slowly coming over, and his line of sight fell on the latter's belt. Deep emotions emerged in his heart. Only C-grade aptitude, but he has already broken to rank 2 at 16. It is truly surprising. I really don't know how he succeeded. However, this quick speed should be mostly attributed to the liquor worm. Pity that liquor worm has no use at rank 2. Following that, he saw the faint smile hanging on Fang Yuan's mouth. This smile made Gyudong too's heart chill. Anger rushed through his mind. This kid acts so calm. Does he think he has me trapped within his palm? Fang Yuan slowly walked over and stopped in front of Gyudong too. He knew the latter was definitely here for him. Sure enough, Gyudong too opened his mouth. Fang Yuan, I think we can have a talk. What do you want to talk about? Fang Yuan slightly frowned. Gyudong too laughed, but then talked of another thing. Do you know, I was the same as you. I became a Gu Master when I was 15. It was right at the time of Wolf Tide. There was a large number of casualties and we, students, also had no choice but to fight. I had B-grade aptitude. I reached rank 2 initial stage at 16, upper stage at 17 and peak stage at 18. When I was 19, I was already beginning my charge to rank 3. At that time, I believed I could be a rank 3 Gu Master at 20. Ha ha ha. I was too frivolous. I thought I was above everyone else and thought I could accomplish anything. I even thought I was omnipotent. I simply didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. It was when I was 20. I went out to do a mission and was beaten by a Xiong village's Gu Master. I was on the brink of death, but fortunately, Medicine Hall's elder personally moved and saved me. But after that event, my aptitude dropped down to C grade. I couldn't recover from this shock for a whole of 8 years. At my 29th birthday, I started to have another look at myself in this world. I discovered that a single person's strength was limited. So what if I had broken through to rank 3? Living in this society, the most important thing is not individual strength, but the connections with others. I began my life anew when I was 30. I stepped down from the front lines when I was 45. 100 Gu Masters jointly petitioned to elect me as an elder dozens of times. Even though I only had the cultivation of rank 2 peak stage, I couldn't take that final step, but there was also no need. I had already achieved success. Clan members call me as the hidden elder. Most of my peers have already passed away, but my life sailed smoothly. I still have influence on many Gu Masters. After giving a lengthy report, Gyudong too returned to the main topic. He looked at Fang Yuan, his mouth curved up. Fang Yuan, you are too young and inexperienced, just like I was back then, believing you can accomplish anything and finish everything by yourself. Hiki. Gyudong too shook his head and continued, but when you gain more experience, you will understand that human is a social animal and not a lone beast. Sometimes we need to lower our heads and take a step back. Being an extremist and arrogant person will only bring isolation and destruction. I believe you have already felt it. No group will take you, and everyone is leaving you out. Even if you receive the family inheritance mission, what would that do? As a person who has been left out by everyone, you definitely won't have the chance to finish the task. Give up. Fang Yuan indifferently looked at the middle-aged man. His expression, calm. I wonder what expression he will show if he knew I have 500 years of experience? Fang Yuan's eyes couldn't help but reveal a trace of smile when he thought this. Actually, his uncle's way of thoughts had been his life's concept for a long period of time in his previous life. Thus, he had created the Bloodwing Demon sect, relying on the system and human emotions to create an enormous influence. 10,000s would come forth with his one call, seizing resources and fighting enemies. However, when he broke through to rank 6, he saw a completely new scene. Gu Masters up to rank 5 were mortals, but rank 6 were immortals. When he stood at that height and looked at the world, he suddenly comprehended an enormous influence was indeed a powerful help, but at the same time was an enormous burden. No matter which world, there was only one thing which one could truly rely on. That was oneself. Only that such people were usually weak. People couldn't endure loneliness and liked chasing after family love, friendship, and romance to fill in their spirit. They indulged in being in a group and were afraid of being alone. When they received setbacks, they would hide in the group, complain to relatives, and share with friends. They didn't dare to confront their fears and defeats by themselves. When there was pain, they would be busy sharing it. When there was something good, They would be anxious to boast of it. Gu Dong 2 succeeded. No doubt he succeeded. He couldn't walk his original path, so he went in another path and left for a new scene. But at the same time, he was also a failure. He had lowered his head because of one setback. He was no more than a coward. But he was content with his running away. Gu Dong 2 didn't know Fang Yuan had already labeled him as a coward. He saw Fang Yuan made no reply, so he thought the latter was absorbed in his speech. He continued, Fang Yuan, I won't beat around the bush. You are not Fang Zheng. If you give up your idea of inheriting the family assets, you will receive my friendship, and you can use all my connections. I will also give you 1,000 primeval stones. I know you are hard-pressed for money these days, and you were even late in paying the rent by 2 days, right? Fang Yuan indifferently smiled and spoke. Uncle, you don't wear these clothes often, right? Gu Dong too was taken aback. He hadn't expected Fang Yuan would suddenly talk about this. Fang Yuan was indeed correct. He had already been retired for a long time now. This uniform was usually stored deep in a box. He had worn this uniform especially to meet Fang Yuan today. It was to increase his persuasion and deterrence power. Fang Yuan sighed. He sized up Gu Dong 2's clothes and continued, a Gu master's uniform isn't so clean and neat. It would be covered with sweat, mud, and blood. It would be in shreds and patches. That is the smell of a Gu master. You are old. Uncle, your great ambitions and aspirations have already disappeared from your youth. These years, you have lived an easy life, and it has corrupted your heart. You are vying for the family assets, not for cultivation but to maintain your rich life. With such a mentality, how could you obstruct me? Gu Dong 2's face instantly turned ashen, anger surging through his mind. There was always a group of old people in this world. They touted their social experience everywhere. They considered others' dreams as illusions, considered others' passions as frivolous, considered others' persistence as arrogance. They would seek their own existence and superiority by lecturing the later generations. No doubt. Gu Dong 2 was such a person. He wanted to educate Fang Yuan, but he had never thought that Fang Yuan not only didn't listen to him or yield to him, but would instead lecture him. Fang Yuan. Gu Dong 2 shouted, I wanted to guide and persuade you with good intentions as your elder, but you don't know what's good from bad. Humph. Since you want to go against me, then so be it. I am not afraid to tell you that I already know the contents of your family inheritance mission. Young people don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Ha. I really want to see how you will complete this mission. Fang Yuan had a ridiculing smile on his face. There was no need to conceal now. Anyway, they could no longer reconcile, so there was no harm in enjoying Gu Dong 2's upcoming wonderful expression. Thereupon, he took out the bullskin water bag and opened it. A fragrance that was specific to honey wine floated out. What do you think is in here? He asked. Gu Dong 2 turned pale with fright. His mood immediately sank to an all-time low. How can this be? Where did you get this honey wine? He roared. A stunned expression appeared on his face. Fang Yuan ignored him, closed the cap, put the water bag back, and walked towards the internal affairs hall. Gu Dong 2's forehead was covered with cold sweat, many thoughts surging in his mind. Where did he get the honey wine? I already made sure that as long as he looks for other groups, I would get the news the very first moment. Could he have done this alone? No, that's not possible. He doesn't have a defense Gu worm. Someone definitely helped him. No. The point now is not finding the reason. This kid already has the honey wine. He's going to hand over the mission. Gu Dong 2 was already panicking as he thought this, and no longer had the calm appearance from moments ago. He quickly chased after Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan, wait. Everything can be discussed. Fang Yuan didn't speak and continued to walk. Gu Dong 2 could only follow beside him. If 1,000 primeval stones won't do, then how about 2,000? No, 2,500. Gu Dong 2 kept on increasing the offer. Fang Yuan turned a deaf ear to Gu Dong 2, instead increasingly having some expectations towards the family assets. On seeing how Gu Dong 2 was so anxious and was continuously raising the offer, the real family assets should definitely be very good. Gu Dong 2 was perspiring. He saw Fang Yuan was not moved. His face revealed a fierce look and he threatened. Fang Yuan, think this through clearly. What end will you have if you offend me? Don't blame uncle for being cold-hearted if you miss an arm or leg in the future. Fang Yuan laughed. This Gu Dong 2 was really a lamentable person. He was bound by rules and regulations. The water bag was clearly within his reach, but he didn't dare to snatch it. If he didn't even have this much guts, how could he succeed in fighting for the benefits? Riches and danger went together. No matter which world, if you want to obtain something, you need to pay its price. Fang Yuan, you think everything will be well after you get the family assets. You are too young. You don't have a clue about society and its dangers. Gu Dongtu snarled by Fang Yuan's ear. Fang Yuan shook his head and ignored him, walking into the internal affairs hall in front of his glaring eyes. Actually, he didn't hate or even loathe this uncle of his. He had seen a lot of such people and understood this type of people. If Fang Yuan had enough primeval stones to support his cultivation, he wouldn't even fight for the family assets. But what good will giving such insignificant benefits to Uncle do? For what reason was he reborn? It was not for this momentary period, but to step to the highest peak. This type of passerby, as long as they didn't interfere with this and only raged from the side, Fang Yuan would disdain to even step on them. But unfortunately, this Gu Dongtu obstructed Fang Yuan's path. Since it was so, then he will stamp on this obstacle and move forward. Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan. Uncle Gu Dongtu watched on as Fang Yuan stepped into the internal affairs hall. His whole body shook and veins bulged up on his forehead. The light of the setting sun shone on his hair, which was already turning white. He was indeed old. When he sustained that injury at the age of 20, he had already aged. Chapter 102. Spring comes after the winter winds. Fang Yuan arrived at the internal affairs hall and turned in the golden honey wine. The middle-aged male Gu master in charge was very surprised. While holding his pen, he asked, "You completed the asset mission already? What do you think?" Fang Yuan retorted. The middle-aged male Gu master frowned. This was the mission he chose specifically to make life difficult for Fang Yuan. To think he completed it so quickly. He looked at Fang Yuan, his eyes threatening, saying solemnly, "Young man, answer whatever I ask you. If you do not reply honestly, it will affect your evaluation. Let me ask you, did you complete this mission alone? Say the truth. We will investigate thoroughly." "Of course I finished it myself." Fang Yuan replied. "Good, I will note that down." The middle-aged Gu master recorded while laughing internally, "You're just a newbie. How could you complete it alone? Such a falseful report, the clan would definitely investigate. You will have trouble then." But unexpectedly Fang Yuan continued, "But this situation is slightly peculiar. That day I only went to scout out the area, but to think the bear was digging the beehive. Using that chance, I retrieved this honey wine." "What?" The middle-aged man's pen stopped, raising his head to look at Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan shrugged, smiling. "What? Did you think I could accomplish this mission alone? To say the truth, this is all thanks to you, finding this mission for me." The middle-aged Gu master was stunned on the spot, a complex and unexplainable feeling in his heart as he laughed dryly and continued to record in the book. Fang Yuan stared at this man calmly, knowing full well that his extremely difficult asset mission was all thanks to this man. Unfortunately, he had already completed the mission. Even if the clan investigates, Fang Yuan had the appropriate setup already. He could stall Fang Yuan no longer, even if this matter was handled by him. This is the grief of being in the system. Your status is the chain that restricts your actions. All right, your mission is complete. You can inherit the family asset already. Except, your asset is all controlled by your uncle and aunt. The Internal Affairs Hall will retrieve it for you. Come back in 3 days. After recording, the middle-aged man said. Fang Yuan nodded. He knew this rule, but he stared at the middle-aged man's record paper, saying, "According to the clan rules, the Internal Affairs mission record needs to be confirmed by the accomplisher on the spot. Please let me see this record." The middle-aged man's expression changed. He did not expect Fang Yuan to be so familiar with the process. He snorted lightly while handling the report to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan looked at the record without any problems. A few hundred words with the final evaluation. Good. He could immediately see the relationship between Gu Dongtu and this Gu master. This evaluation was definitely fair, showing that the middle-aged Gu master did not give up on his work ethics just because of Gu Dongtu. The reason he helped Dongtu was only because of their friendship and the transaction between them. It was the taking money to settle problems for others type of transaction. Giving the report back to the middle-aged Gu master, Fang Yuan left the Internal Affairs Hall. Outside, Gu Dongtu was already gone. Fang Yuan could not help but laugh coldly. Gu Dongtu's influence was not big enough to affect the Internal Affairs Hall. Even if Gu Bo, the clan leader, wanted to do this, he would have to go against the immense pressure from the clan elder circle and pay a huge price in his political career. There was a phrase on Earth called, "Those who live in the society has to follow its rules." There were rules in the society, and that is a form of system. Those who follow the rules, being anyone's pawn piece, restrict each other, and it is not up to them to control, unless an individual's strength has reached the point where it can oppose the entire organization. Otherwise, joining an organization and wanting to retain freedom was a pointless dream. Borrowing the power of the clan system, Fang Yuan had already affirmed the truth of getting back his assets, regardless of Gu Yudong II or the clan leader. They will not pay the political price for interfering with such a small matter. I in the guest hall. Brother Dong II, there is nothing I can do anymore. The middle-aged Gu master sighed, standing in front of Gu Yudong Tu. Gu Yudong II's face was grim as he remained silent on his seat. Are there really no more methods? Beside him, and fearfully asked in an anxious and indignant tone, the middle-aged man shook his head. The results are set in stone and have entered the Internal Affairs Hall's procedure, unless the two clan elders in power or the clan leader interferes. Brother Dong II, this Internal Affairs Hall's inventory list states clearly the inheritance items and amount. Please return them all and don't make my life difficult. Saying so, he took out the inventory list. The inventory had a ton of records, from expensive items like estates to cheap tables or chairs. Other than that, there were also the Gu worms that Fang Yuan's parents had left behind. After a Gu master dies of battle, their Gu worms would be retrieved as an inheritance for their successor. This was a political move by the clan. Aunt took a look at the list, before losing her composure. Damn it, you cannot do this. This is all ours, OURS. Hubby, say something, think of something. Without these assets, what do we have left? Even our servants will be gone by half. We cannot afford it. Slap. Gu Dong II stood up and sent his palm flying towards Aunt, sending her to the ground from her seat. Noisy bitch. Uncle flew into a rage, scolding in an agitated tone. Frog in the well. The clan rules are there. You think you can choose not to return them? Dumb. Ignorant. Aunt used her hand to cover her cheeks, beaten into stupidity, lying on the ground in shock, staring at her husband blankly. Humph. Gu Dong II grabbed the inventory list, gritting his teeth, scanning through. His eyes were filled with blood traces as he breathed heavily, saying with hatred, return. All these things. I will return. Not a thing less. But, his veins popped from his forehead, the muscles on his face twitching, his expression full of ruthlessness. But Fang Yuan, I cannot stop the Internal Affairs Hall, yet I can deal with you. Don't think everything is well and alive now that you have these assets. Humph. 3 days later, Fang Yuan walked out from the Internal Affairs Hall with a stack of house and land deeds and sold human contracts in his hands. To think this inheritance is so abundant. He was slightly stunned. Even though Fang Yuan had some estimations, after receiving this asset list, it was way out of his expectations. Over 10 mu of farmland, 8 family servants and 3 bamboo buildings, and a wine tavern. No wonder Uncle was so insistent, thinking of all ways to stop me. Fang Yuan could understand Gu Yudong II's actions. With such a large family asset, even in this world, one could live like a king. 10 mu of farmland, 8 family servants. Put this aside first. Those 3 bamboo buildings were property assets. Even if they were only rented out every month, the rental amount was enough to support Fang Yuan's current cultivation. Other than that, there is also a wine tavern. Note that there is only 4 wine-selling areas in the entire village. Such an asset, if on Earth, would be equivalent to having several mansions and a hotel. It is an aristocrat life with multiple servants. What's worth mentioning is, this world's living conditions was way more ruthless and difficult, thus the village being the safest location, priced the property assets even more expensively than on Earth. It is said that my Fang family, 3 generations ago, had a clan elder who held power, and left much inheritance for his future generations. With these family assets, the 7 Gu worms aside, even if that number doubled, I can still afford them. But the crucial point isn't this. It is this grass Gu. At this point, there was a grass Gu lying quietly in Fang Yuan's palm. It was dainty and delicate, the emerald green roots resembling a ginseng's beard. There were some semi-transparent stolon that was like jadeite. 9 pieces of round-shaped leaves that were jade green covered and reflected each other, forming the shape of a round plate. This was the 9-leaf vitality grass, the healing type rank 2 Gu worm. If it came to normal healing, it had no difference from the life breath grass. The true value of the 9-leaf vitality grass lay in its leaves. Every one of the leaves torn from it was a vitality leaf. Vitality leaf is also a type of grass Gu. At rank 1, it is an expendable type, disappearing after 1 USE. It had another flaw, and that was when a piece of vitality leaf is used to heal injuries, within the next hour. Other vitality leaves had no more healing effect on the person. But, all in all, it was easy to refine, and instantaneous healing together with the easy feeding of it made it the most popular healing technique among rank 2 Gu Masters. Healing Gu Master. Every group needed one. But in times where multiple Gu Masters were injured, what can a single Gu Master do? If the healing Gu Master was the one who died, or got lost, what happens to the rest? Thus, Gu Masters always prepared some healing methods for themselves, and the Vitality Leaf was the best method. Every Gu Master that roamed outside needed to prepare at least one or two. After I refined the 9-leaf Vitality Grass, every piece of leaf torn out would be a Vitality Leaf. Using the primeval essence to inject into the grass, I can make it grow new leaves. Thus, this 9-leaf Vitality Grass can be said to be a moving gold mine. The most important asset of all, without exception. Having this 9-leaf Vitality Grass is an avenue of business. In this dangerous world, which Gu Master does not get injured on their missions, they have a perpetual need for the Vitality Leaf. No wonder Gu Yudong too was known as the Hidden Elder. Even after he retired many years ago, he still held great influence outside. So the reason was this 9-leaf Vitality Grass. Gu Masters needed the Vitality Leaf, and Gu Yudong too sold the leaf. With such a relationship, it is no question that his influence remained. Fang Yuan was enlightened. Only in this world are clan relationships raised to such a level, restraining uncle and aunt. If this was Earth, with such a conflict of interest, Fang Zheng and I would already have been killed by them. This is not good. It seems I have some trouble ahead. Uncle and aunt will not let go so easily. But I have already grown up with rank 2 cultivation. If they want to deal with me and also consider the clan regulations, they would be highly restricted. Regardless of what they do, just show me what you've got. Dealing with it as it comes, I will handle them all. Fang Yuan walked on the street, his eyes glimmering in brilliance. A gust of winter wind blew on his face. It was still far from spring, but Fang Yuan knew that spring start of his new life had already come. Chapter 103. The larger your ambitions, the smaller the world. The wine tavern wasn't big, but it was in a good location. It was at the eastern side of the village near the eastern gate. The flow of people was the largest at the eastern and northern gates. Thus, the wine tavern's business was pretty good whether it was day or night. Young lord, please take a seat. An old man lowered his head to Fang Yuan. Few waiters wiped the benches and tables with a fawning and flattering smile towards Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan shook his head. He didn't sit, but walked around the tavern, sizing everything. He thought inwardly, this is my wine tavern. This wine tavern only had one floor, but it had an underground wine cellar. Huge and square black tiles covered the floor. There were 8 square tables. 2 tables were set against the wall and other 6 tables were surrounded by 4 benches. A dark brown, long sales counter could be seen immediately upon entering the wine tavern. There were papers, brush, inkstones, and also an abacus on the counter. Behind the counter was the liquor cabinet where all sizes of wine jars were displayed. Some of these were large wine jars of black pottery, and some were small and bright porcelain wine bottles. Fang Yuan was walking around as he wished. The old man and waiters didn't dare to sit. They could only follow close behind. They were restless. The news of the landlord changing was too abrupt. The previous landlord Gu Yudong too was cunning as a ghost. He was strict and acrimonious. They were under a lot of pressure. This boy in front of them was actually able to take the wine tavern from Gu Yudong too's hands. Such a method of snatching was shocking. So these people's gazes towards Fang Yuan carried unease and fear. Fang Yuan suddenly stopped. It is good. But this store is a bit small. The old man immediately walked forward and bowed to answer, Young lord, we put sheds outside every summer and lay tables and benches. But it is winter now, and the wind is biting cold. No one would sit outside even if we put up sheds. So we took them down. Fang Yuan slightly turned. He glanced at this old man. You are the shopkeeper? The old bent his waist even lower and said even more respectfully, I dare not. I dare not. Young lord, this wine tavern is yours. Whoever you choose as a shopkeeper is the shopkeeper. Fang Yuan nodded then glanced at the waiters. They all seemed to be competent. If it was on Earth, he would be anxious that the shopkeeper and the waiters would team up and scheme against him, the owner. But in this world, Gu Masters were high and mighty. Killing mortals would only require a thought. Even if uncle and aunt egged them, these mortals wouldn't dare to go against Fang Yuan. All right, bring the accounting books and bring me a pot of tea. Fang Yuan sat down. Yes, young lord. The shopkeeper and waiters moved hurriedly. There were as much as 16 account books, and every book used bamboo papers which had a light green hue. The bamboo papers were more brittle than Xian paper and were suitable for the damp atmosphere of the southern border. Fang Yuan casually picked up a few books and skimmed over them, asking some questions occasionally. The shopkeeper gave prompt replies. Soon, his forehead was covered with sweat. Fang Yuan had created the Bloodwing demon sect and taught countless people in his previous life. He was rich in experience and his eyes were shrewd. Others might be confused and dazzled when they see the account books. But in his eyes, all the doubtful points were as clear as crystal. This wine tavern was the second biggest asset after the 9-leaf vitality grass. Fang Yuan naturally wanted to firmly grasp it. There were only some small problems in the account books which could be attributed to mistakes and negligence. These mortals didn't dare to be presumptuous. However, when Fang Yuan turned to the last page, he saw that this month's income had already been taken by Gu Yudong Tuesday, young lord. The previous landlord personally took it. We didn't dare to resist. The shopkeeper replied while wiping his sweat. His aged body was already trembling and his face had become very pale. Fang Yuan was silent. He put down the account books on the table and glanced at the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper immediately felt a huge pressure as if a mountain was pressing down on him. He was scared witless, kneeling on the ground. Seeing the shopkeeper kneeling down, the waiters also astutely knelt down one by one. Fang Yuan calmly sat and turned his gaze towards them. The waiters immediately felt like they were in a world of ice. They couldn't resist Fang Yuan's aura. They were all silent. To these mortals, the wine tavern's work was both stable and safe, the ideal job. They didn't want to lose this job. Fang Yuan stopped upon seeing that his authority had been established. Going too far could end up being detrimental. He slowly spoke. I won't bother about the past matters. I saw that your wages are somewhat low. Waiters' wages will be raised by 20% and the shopkeepers by 40% from now on. Work properly and you will get more benefits. Fang Yuan stood up and walked to the entrance. The group of people kneeling on the ground were stunned for a good while before coming back to their senses. All of their eyes brimmed with tears that flowed down their faces. Thank you, young lord, for your great kindness. Young lord is compassionate. We will definitely work with all our strength. Young lord, you are our benefactor. Please take care. Tearful sounds came from behind. There were also crisp sounds of foreheads smashing on the black tiles from continuous kowtowing. Use might alongside mercy. This was the only way the top controlled its subordinates, no matter in which world. Might was the foundation, and under this might, any small kindness would be magnified by countless times. A benefit without might would only give a title of a good Samaritan. But as time passed, people would no longer feel grateful for such kindness, and it would instead result in greed and disaster. But these ways to control people are all unorthodox methods. It would be highly esteemed on Earth, but in this world, raising one's own strength is the one true way. No, even on Earth, strength is first. Fang Yuan thought of the Scarlet Red Imperial Ancestor. 1. In those days, the Scarlet Red Imperial Ancestor had gone through and experienced a trial, and he had come to a conclusion. Political power comes from guns. This was the naked truth. Strength was the foundation of any political power. So-called authority is only an accessory to strength. Actually, not only authority, wealth and beauties were also derivatives of strength. Fang Yuan headed towards the 3 bamboo houses after leaving the wine tavern. These 3 bamboo houses were rented out by uncle and aunt. They were practically full. This world paid attention to more birth. To the ever-growing huge population, the space in the village seemed narrow. The clan had the system of the eldest son inheriting the property. Other sons and daughters would have to rely on their effort. Even if a lot of people relied on clan politics to get a meager split of the family assets and work hard outside, they might not even be able to save enough to buy a bamboo house in their whole life. On one hand, raising Gu consumed a lot, and on the other, the village had limited space, so the house prices were very expensive. They could naturally build house outside the village, but that was not safe. Wild beasts and snakes would always roam around and could intrude into the houses. Above all, every time a beast tide occurred, all the houses outside the village would be destroyed. Extending the village was the only way to solve this. But extending meant the area to defend would increase, and the village wouldn't be able to defend against beast tide's attacks. Moreover, if the area was big, then it would be difficult to guard against and search for infiltrating Gu masters of other villages. Gu village had extended several times in history, but had been devastated by beast tides. After learning from this lesson, the current village size was already the largest. Fang Yuan skimmed through it, and after understanding some situations, he already got the picture. These 3 bamboo houses were operated very well by uncle and aunt. The rent was also customized to get more profits, so he might as well just let it run like that. He calculated that the earnings from these 3 bamboo houses were not as much as the wine tavern, but the difference was not much. The overall situation was much better than Fang Yuan's original expectations. Just the day before yesterday, he was left with nothing and had become so poor that his primeval stones count didn't even reach 5. But now, all of a sudden, he rose to the list of richest people in the clan. The female tenants in these rented houses were all ranked 2 female Gu masters in difficulty. After knowing Fang Yuan's identity, their gaze towards him turned amorous. If they could be near to Fang Yuan and get married to him, then they would no longer have to rush about facing danger. Their lives would be smooth and steady. Such a life was what they were pursuing and using all their strength to fight for. That is to say that if Fang Yuan wanted, he could retire and live a rich life now like his uncle used to. With a tap of a finger, many female Gu masters would flock to him, but that is not what I want. Fang Yuan stood at the 2nd floor of the bamboo house, letting female Gu masters' provocative gazes fall upon his body. He frowned as he held the railings and gazed afar. Far away, stretched of green mountains went on continuously, looking like a sleeping giant with the gray-blue sky as its quilt. The endless rivers and boundless earth, when can I move unhindered on them? Amidst the winds of change, dragons and snakes rise from the lands too. When can I look down upon all living things? Since rebirth, I have been drifting with the waves like a rootless duckweed. I spared no effort to get the family assets. With this base, I can be said to have become independent and gained my footing. Next would be to unearth the flower wine monk's inheritance and put all my effort in cultivating to rank 3. Then I can leave this village and go out to the wide world. Fire burned in Fang Yuan's deep black eyes. Qingmao Mountain was one of the countless mountains in the southern border. And the southern border was only a corner of this world. Too small, too small. How could such a place sustain his lofty ambitions? Compared to his ambitions, these family assets, which others were cracking their brains to obtain, which was a thing of yearning, was as tiny as dust. Big brother, come down. I need to talk to you. At some point in time, Gu Fangzheng had reached the bamboo house. He looked up at Fang Yuan and yelled, Fang Yuan's train of thoughts were broken. He looked down at Fangzheng with an indifferent look. The brothers' eyes met. It was silent. Younger brother Fangzheng was downstairs and was shrouded by the shadow of another house. He was facing up. His eyebrows were raised and his 2 eyes were flickering with light. Big brother Fang Yuan was upstairs. Sunlight shone on him. His slightly drooping eyes had pupils as dark as night. Similar faces reflected in each other's eyes. As to his little brother's appearance, Fang Yuan wasn't surprised. Fangzheng was a weapon of uncle and aunt to fight for family assets. And yet, so what? Fang Yuan looked down at Fangzheng, sighing inwardly, a great aptitude, but is nothing more than a pawn, truly insignificant. 1. It's referring to Chairman Mao. Writing his name directly in Chinese texts are taboo, it seems. 2. It's along the meaning of an earthquake is about to happen, and all kinds of living creatures feel fretful and uneasy. They start to move about lively. It's a visualization description. Chapter 104. Want to buy the liquor worm? Eventually, Fang Yuan did not go downstairs, and his brother did not go up. The 2 persisted, and the distance between the floors indicated that the distance between the brothers were enlarging. The talk was not smooth. Brother, you are just too much. To think that you are such a person. Downstairs, Fangzheng stood, his brows creasing tightly as he screamed. Fang Yuan was not angry, but laughed lightly. Oh, what kind of person am I? Brother. Fangzheng sighed deeply. After our parents died, uncle and aunt adopted us. They have the gratitude of raising us. To think that you are so heartless, returning favor with revenge. Big brother, is your heart made of stone? Saying so, Fangzheng's tone was slightly trembling. So strange, this inheritance is rightfully mine. What is there to be said about revenge and favor? Fang Yuan retorted unenthusiastically. Fangzheng gritted his teeth, acknowledging, yes, I know, this inheritance is from our parents. But you cannot take them all. You have to at least leave some for aunt and uncle to let them enjoy their life in retirement, right? Doing so, you really are making our hearts bitterly disappointed. You let me look down on you. Pausing, he continued, did you ever return home to see the living conditions that they are in now? Half the servants at home were already retrenched. They cannot afford it. Brother, how can you be so cruel? Fangzheng's eyes were red. Clutching his fist, he screamed at Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan laughed coldly. He knew that uncle and aunt had controlled the assets all these years and must have amassed a huge fortune. Even if this was not so, just with the profits at the end of the month from the wine tavern, they would be able to afford all those servants. They are only pretending to be poor so Fang Zheng would come and find trouble. Fang Yuan used his gaze to size up Fang Zheng and said directly, "My adorable little brother, if I insist on not returning the assets, what can you do? Although you are 16, you have already acknowledged them as parents. Don't forget that. You have lost the rights to the inheritance." "I know." Fang Zheng's gaze had a divine light. "That's why I am here to challenge you to a written war challenge. 1. On the arena, let's have a match to decide victory. If I win, return a portion of the family asset to mother and father." This world's Gu battles were like the Earth's martial arts competitions. Between clansmen, if they had unresolvable conflict, they could use this method to settle the problem. There were many types of Gu battles: 1 versus 1, 2 versus 2, battle of arts, battle of strength, and life and death battle. Of course, Fang Yuan and Fang Zheng would not be so serious as to fight to the death if they had a Gu battle. Seeing the brothers' determined expression, Fang Yuan suddenly laughed. "It seems that before this, uncle and aunt specifically told you, huh? But, as someone who lost to me before, you have such confidence of winning me." Fang Zheng squinted, unwillingly thinking of what happened not long ago, the humiliation on the arena. Ever since, every time he thought about it, rage would rise from his heart. This rage was directed towards Fang Yuan as well as himself. He hated himself for being useless, being frantic at the critical moment. As a matter of fact, he had underperformed in that battle. His tempo was taken away by Fang Yuan, and he only thought of using the jade skin Gu at the last moment. In the end, he lost abruptly and very indignantly. Fang Zheng's anger towards himself fueled even more intense indignance. Thus, unavoidably, he had such a thought: if I could redo it, I can definitely perform better and defeat my older brother. Thus, when uncle and aunt complained to him, Fang Zheng not only wanted to take back the inheritance for the two of them, but also wanted to fight Fang Yuan again to prove himself. "Things are different now, brother." Fang Zheng looked at Fang Yuan, his eyes burning with determination, fires blazing around him. "Last time, I performed badly and lost to you. This time, I have successfully refined the rank 2 Gu worm moon raiment. You cannot break my defense anymore." Saying so, he emitted a vague light blue fog around his body. The fog enveloped him, and in the mist, it eventually formed into a long floating ribbon. The ribbon looped around his waist and coiled around his 2 limbs. 2. The middle section of the ribbon drifted above his head, causing Fang Zheng to give out a sort of graceful and mysterious magical breath. "Indeed, it is the moon raiment. How foolish, revealing your trump card like that." Fang Yuan stood on the stairs, seeing this scene. His gaze twinkled. Moon raiment was a rank 2 Gu worm with defensive properties. Although the defense was slightly lower than the white jade Gu, it could assist others in defending and had greater contribution towards small group fights. With this Gu in his hands, Fang Yuan really could not break Fang Zheng's defense with his bare fists. Sending the fist over was like hitting cotton, absolutely losing its kinetic force. Even if he used the moonlight Gu, he could not break through unless it was the moonglow Gu. Thus, if Fang Zheng wanted to fight and invited Fang Yuan to a Gu battle, according to the clan rules, he has to accept. Without revealing the white jade Gu, Fang Yuan might really lose. A grade is a grade, and with the clan leader's nurture, Fang Zheng is growing rapidly. It could be said that, during the academy phase, Fang Yuan suppressed Fang Zheng. But now he had to admit, Fang Zheng was starting to show the brilliance of a genius and was showing imposing threat to Fang Yuan. "But, you think I did not expect this?" Fang Yuan stared down at his brother, his lips curling. He said to Fang Zheng, "My persistent little brother, of course you can challenge me. But have you gotten the approval of your teammates? If during the battle, your group has to go on a mission, how would you choose?" Fang Zheng paused. Indeed, he did not think of this. He had to admit, his brother was right. The group had to work together, and if teammates wanted to go on individual operations, they would need to report first. Thus, you might as well go back, find that leader Gu Yuqing of yours, and explain the situation. "I'll wait for you guys at the Northern Gates Wine Tavern," Fang Yuan said. Fang Zheng hesitated slightly, then gritted his teeth. "I'll go now, brother. But let me tell you, delayed tactics don't work." He came to Gu Yuqing's residence, and the family servant let him in. Gu Yuqing was practicing using his Gu. His body was moving around in the garden's arena stage, extremely agile and fit. "Green vine Gu," he lightly said. And from his right palm, a green vine shot out. It was around 15 meters. Qing Shu grabbed the vine and used it as a whip, splitting, coiling, and sweeping around. Pow, pow, pow. The shadow of the whip swept across the floor, sending the concrete on the broken ground flying. Pine needle goo. He suddenly kept the vine whip and flipped his long green hair. Immediately, from among the hair, pine needles shot out like rain. The pine needles hit the wooden puppet not far away, piercing its entire body and creating close and numerous pinholes. Moon whirl goo. Next, he placed out his left palm, and a green-colored crescent insignia glowed in a bright green light. With a flick of his wrist, the green moon blade was sent flying. Different from the trajectory of a normal moon blade, this green moon blade was more curved. While flying in the air, it traveled in an arc, making it harder for enemies to predict. As expected of the number 1 Gu Master among the rank 2, Senior Qing Shu. With such an attack, I can't even last for 10 breaths. He's really too strong. Fang Yuan stared with his mouth wide open, forgetting his original intention in the first place. Oh? Fang Yuan, why are you here? The previous mission just ended, you have to rest more. Got to keep that balance between work and rest. Gu Qingshu, upon noticing Fang Yuan, kept away his fighting aura and smiled gently. Senior Qingshu. Fang Yuan bowed to him respectfully. This respect was sincerely from his heart. Ever since he joined the group, Fang Yuan had been attentively taken care of by Qingshu, and in Fang Yuan's eyes, Qingshu was like an elder brother. Oh Fang Yuan, it seems you have business with me? Qingshu wiped the sweat off his forehead while going towards Fang Yuan with a smile. It's like this. Fang Yuan said his intentions, as well as the entire story. Hearing so, Qingshu's eyebrows slightly rose. The truth is that he had heard a lot about Fang Yuan, and when compared to Fang Yuan, he was more interested in Fang Yuan. Might as well meet him for once. Thinking so, Gu Qingshu nodded. I have something to discuss with your brother as well. In that case, let's go together. Fang Yuan was overjoyed. Thank you, Senior. No need to thank me. We're in the same group. Qingshu patted Fang Yuan's shoulders. Fang Yuan could feel warmth in his heart, his eyes unwillingly turning red. The two got to the tavern. A shop assistant had been expecting them all along and brought them inside. On a square table by the window, there were several side dishes and 2 wine cups and a pot of wine. Fang Yuan sat on one side, and when he saw Gu Qingshu, he smiled and extended his hand. Please sit. Gu Qingshu nodded to Fang Yuan. He took his seat, then said to Fang Yuan, go take a stroll around. I'll talk with your brother. He was a smart person. Upon seeing only 2 wine cups, he knew that Fang Yuan wanted to have a chat alone. The truth is, he had such intentions as well. Fang Yuan acknowledged and left the shop indignantly. I know you, Fang Yuan. Qingshu smiled, opening the wine pot skillfully, pouring a cup for Fang Yuan and one for himself. You are a very interesting, smart person. Saying so, he raised his cup towards Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan laughed and raised his cup as well to return the toast. The two drank it in one shot together. Qingshu poured another for Fang Yuan again, as well as for himself. As he poured, he said, There's no point beating about the bush when talking to a smart person. I'll be open. I want to buy your liquor worm. How much would you sell it? He did not ask Fang Yuan if he was selling it, but asked directly how much, showing his immense confidence. He was the number 1 rank 2 Gu Master. At a young age, he reached rank 2 peak stage, overpowering the rank 2 upper stage Qi Shan and Mo Yin. Once he appeared, he took the initiative and poured the wine and toasted Fang Yuan. His confidence together with his gentle smile formed a unique aura. It was not overbearing and forceful, which could make people disgusted, but it made others feel his persistence. His long green hair, and the winter sunlight shining through the window and onto his fair, gently streaked face. This let Fang Yuan subconsciously think of the bright and beautiful radiance of spring. A truly talented person. What a shame, Fang Yuan thought. He was not bothered by Qingshu's act of taking over the initiative. In fact, Fang Yuan was slightly appreciative of him, and he sighed lightly. 1. Written War Challenge, Challenge Showdown. Gu Battle Showdown basically. 2. If you really have no idea what it looks like, perhaps this link might help. Tell me if it ever gets broken. Chapter 105. I will lose extremely terribly. Gu Qingshu was also an orphan like Fang Yuan and Fang Zhang. His parents had died in a wolf tide when he was young. He was personally raised by clan leader Gu Bo after he was tested to have B-grade aptitude. He received Gu Bo's personal guidance. His aptitude was outstanding and could be said to be at the top among the B grades. It could even be called false A grade. Gu Bo had been raising him as a clan leader candidate. Gu Qingshu had a warm temperament and was amicable. He was highly praised and received well by the clan members. He was also very loyal to the clan. Fang Zheng's arrival cut off his hopes of inheriting the clan leader position, but he was instead happy and wholeheartedly took care of Fang Zheng. On Earth, Yu Fei, 1, Wei Zheng, 2, and Bao Zheng, 3, were people with such character. Unfortunately, in the wolf tide a year later, the northern gate would fall. To block this gap and protect the clan members, he stepped forward. In the end, he forcefully used a rank 3 gu with his rank 2 cultivation, becoming an impenetrable fortress and successfully defending the village. However, his aperture was destroyed because of this, and he finally turned into a treeman and died. Thus, Gu Yuqing Shu had left a profound impression on Fang Yuan. When he saw Fang Yuan sighing, Gu Yuqing Shu naturally didn't think that Fang Yuan was looking back on his death and thought Fang Yuan was vexed due to the liquor worm, but he smiled. Fang Yuan, you should already be clear on the limits of liquor worm. The liquor worm is only a rank 1 gu worm and can only refine rank 1 green copper essence. But you are already a rank 2 gu master. The liquor worm has no use towards red steel primeval essence. Although you have a wine tavern now and can easily raise the liquor worm, why would you vainly raise something that has no use to you? He switched the thread of discussion. The liquor worm has no use to you, but it is useful to other rank 1 gu masters. Especially in the awakening ceremony next spring, there will be a new batch of students, and the liquor worm will be of great help to them. So, you might as well just sell the liquor worm to the clan and contribute to clan strength. Fang Yuan didn't reply. Qing Shu pondered, guessing Fang Yuan's intention. I understand now. You are reluctant to part with the liquor worm. You even want to fuse it. If I am not wrong, you should be thinking of going the route of the rank 2 white chrysalis, then the rank 3 mist perspiring butterfly fusion route, right? This is the most widespread and also the most practical recipe. The mist perspiring butterfly is a great gu worm, but the white chrysalis has no ability. This fusion route wouldn't have much value to you. You have C-grade aptitude and now have rank 2 cultivation. White chrysalis doesn't have any ability and will only squander food. It will be of no help to you. What is the possibility of you reaching rank 3? Even if you succeeded in advancing to rank 3, you will probably be middle-aged by then. Will you raise the useless white chrysalis for tens of years? It will be better to use the expenses of raising white chrysalis on nurturing gu worms. That is more practical and will be more helpful to you. Am I wrong? Liquor worm's true value lies in refining primeval essence and raising a small realm. If you go through this fusion, you will only be treating the liquor worm as a material. Won't that be a pity? All gu worms had only one ability. For instance, the spring-autumn cicada was a rank 6 gu, but it only had the ability of rebirth. The new gu worm that comes from fusion usually took an ability from one gu worm and enhanced it. White jade gu, for instance, took the defensive ability of jade skin gu and enhanced it, while losing the white boar gu's ability to gain increased strength. That is to say, if someone obtained white jade gu, it would only help in defense and couldn't increase the gu master's strength. Qing Shu was correct. The liquor worm's value was in refining primeval essence and raising its stage by a small realm. To gu masters. This was another form of increasing their primeval essence reserves while also being an enormous help in nourishing their aperture and increasing their cultivation speed. If one went through white chrysalis, mist perspiring butterfly fusion route, the resulting gu worms won't have the ability to refine primeval essence, which would truly be a pity. In fact, Flower Wine Monk took this route and refined the mist perspiring butterfly from the liquor worm, using it to enchant women and commit evil acts. After his death, the mist perspiring butterfly continued to degenerate due to not having sufficient food and finally reverted back to liquor worm. Qing Shu's eyes flashed upon seeing the silent Fang Yuan and continued. Actually, our clan has a recipe. This recipe raises liquor worm to rank 2 moon harbinger gu, then the rank 3 7 fragrances liquor worm. 7 fragrances liquor worm has the ability to refine primeval essence. Fang Yuan, if you don't want to sell the liquor worm, then we could change it to a business transaction. You will sell the liquor worm to the clan, and if the clan can refine it to the 7 fragrances liquor worm, you will have the right to use it for 5 years. If it fails, the clan will compensate for it. What do you think? Doing this meant the clan will bear all the risks for the fusion. With such a superior condition, others might eagerly agree to it. But Fang Yuan only sneered coldly in his heart that he knew himself. With his 44% C-grade aptitude, advancing to rank 3 was almost impossible. In his previous life, Fang Yuan had stalled at rank 2 for over 100 years before finally and coincidentally obtaining a talent-raising Gu worm and becoming a rank 3 Gu master. 5 years of using rites sounded wonderful, but to Fang Yuan, it was like trying to catch the moon's reflection in water. Gu Qingshu had said so, because he saw Fang Yuan's ambitions to charge to rank 3. So he intentionally threw this sweet bait to lure Fang Yuan. But he had miscalculated from the start. In Fang Yuan's memories, there was the best recipe for the liquor worm fusion. First was advancing the liquor worm to rank 2 4 flavors liquor worm, then to the rank 3 7 fragrances liquor worm. Whether it was 4 flavors liquor worm or 7 fragrances liquor worm, both had the ability to refine primeval essence. However, it was not easy to refine the 4 flavors liquor worm. First of all, its fusion required 2 liquor worms. Fang Yuan only had 1 currently. Next, the fusion required 4 types of wine, and these 4 wines should be of 4 different flavors: sour, sweet, bitter, and spicy. Let's not talk about the difficulty in purchasing a liquor worm with there being hardly any supply of it in the market. Let's look at these 4 wines first. Spicy wines were the most common. Ordinary white spirit wine were all of this type. For sour wines, you could get bayberry wine and grape wines. Rice wines could fit the sweet wine criteria. But as for the bitter wines, it needed some thinking to be done. From what Fang Yuan knew, there was a type of green bitter wine which was brewed by using AI grass. Unfortunately, the AI village was immeasurably far away. How would he obtain it? Fang Yuan had detained the liquor worm not because he wanted to wait and sell it for a high price. Rather, Fang Yuan had all along wanted to go through this fusion route. Using any other fusion routes could be counted as ruining the liquor worm. How could Gu Qingshu know what Fang Yuan had in mind? Seeing Fang Yuan not making any moves to agree at all, he threw his trump card. Fang Yuan, if you sell the liquor worm, I can mediate between you and Fang Zheng. At least, he won't use the family assets to challenge you to a Gu battle. You also know the clan rules. The challenge must be accepted. Even if the Gu battle request is not approved by the higher-ups, it must first be accepted. Even if you are sure of your defeat and don't want to go to the arena, directly throwing in the towel, you still need to accept the challenge. This world promoted martial spirit. Clans didn't need cowards. If there was a challenge, Gu masters must accept them. Accepting the challenge proves that you are not a coward. Even if you admit your defeat in front of the public, that too would be a conduct of courage. Under the oppression of the ruthless environment, this had automatically turned and formed into a system of values. The clan's higher-ups would arbitrate according to the results of the Gu battles and resolve any problems and disputes. The premise of a Gu battle was to have a reason. The challenger should be in the right and the challenge should be reasonable, or the two parties could both make an agreement similar to betting. Only then would the Gu battle be approved. Fang Zheng's Gu battle request is reasonable and fair. It will be approved. If this happens, no matter the result, whether loss or win, will be judged by the elders. Who do you think the elders will side with between you and Fang Zheng? Qingshu's smile became bigger. He looked at Fang Yuan with a burning gaze and continued to add pressure. Fang Yuan, if you win, you will simply have to part with a tiny bit less of the family assets. But if you sell the liquor worm to the clan, you will be contributing to the clan. The clan will remember you. I can also guarantee that Fang Zheng would never challenge you on the basis of family assets. The implication was that Fang Zheng could still challenge Fang Yuan with different reasons. This was one of the things Gu Qingshu and Gu Bo would be happy to see. They hoped Fang Zheng would defeat Fang Yuan and break the shadow in his heart to build up his self-confidence. Fang Yuan suddenly smiled. He had been listening to Gu Qingshu's chatters from the beginning. And now, he finally spoke. You think I will lose if we fight? Fang Yuan asked Qingshu. Qingshu also smiled. Fights are full of variations. No one can foretell what might happen. However, I need to remind you, Fang Zheng has already refined the rank 2 Moonveil Gu. You won't have much of an advantage. Ha ha ha. Fang Yuan shook his head, and the smile on his face became bigger. I will lose. I definitely lose. Qingshu stared blankly. Fang Yuan stared into his eyes and continued. Not only will I lose, I will even lose very miserably. I will hand over all my parents' inheritance, and from then on I will sleep on the street and wander about begging in the village. You. Gu Yuqing was smart. He understood Fang Yuan's true intentions. His expression became grave. No longer was it confident and graceful. Fang Yuan's words were a bare threat. Fang Zheng was being raised as the next clan leader. If it was made known that he had recognized others as his parents, used his cultivation and aptitude to bully his big brother, snatching the inheritance, then there would be a devastating damage to his reputation. Even on Earth, a person who did this would be shamed and disdained by people. Let alone in this world where the values of family love was raised to a whole new level. It wouldn't be anything if Fang Zheng wanted to become a devil. But he was going to become a clan leader, a leader of the righteous path, and that meant he needed to uphold virtue and cherish it. For a moment, Gu Yuqing looked dazedly at Fang Yuan. He discovered that despite hearing a lot about Fang Yuan, he had still underestimated the latter. The dominance that he built up from his many sentences since the moment they met had now crumbled with a bang. Fang Yuan hit the nail on the head, directly indicating the main part to Gu Yuqing. If it was another person, Fang Yuan would have spoken differently. But Gu Yuqing was someone who had extreme loyalty to the clan, and in Fang Yuan's previous life, he would rather sacrifice himself to protect the clan. Thus, he had no choice but to worry because of Fang Yuan's threat. However, he quickly calmed down, his eyes staring at Fang Yuan as he spoke between clenched teeth. But you won't do this. Because the inheritance has been your goal all along. How will you cultivate if you give up the inheritance? Fang Yuan wasn't afraid. He met Qing Shu's gaze, his lips curled up in a smile. That's why I believe you will give up the notion of buying the liquor worm, and also persuade Fang Zheng to not challenge me. Am I wrong? Others might not be able to persuade Fang Zheng, but Gu Yuqing had this capability. Fang Yuan had no doubt on this. The situation was in a deadlock. After a moment, Gu Yuqing lowered his eyes. He stared at the wine cup in his hand for a while and suddenly laughed. Interesting. We will do just that. His tone carried a hint of melancholy. 1. Yu Fei, Yer Fei. 1103 AD. 1142 AD Song Dynasty Patriot and General. 2. Wei Zheng, Wei Zheng. 580 AD, 643 AD. Tang politician and historian, notorious as a critic, editor of history of the Sui dynasty. 3. Bao Zheng, Bao Zheng. 999 AD, 1062 AD. Northern Song official renowned for his honesty.